Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Joe. Thank you for watching and continuing this project of ours. All of your comments are just amazing, and this show has gotten so much support. Um, I would love if you guys would subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're at 16 subscribers and we're trying to reach 500 subscribers, which is great. That would help us tremendously. And then also, please like and comment on each video. That also helps us as well. If you're interested in supporting Joe Bryan Films LLC, please donate to us. The link will be down in the description. And if you'd like to sponsor the next video or any future videos, please email me at joebrayanfilms@gmail.com. So thank you for supporting us. Hi, Armando. Welcome. We're super excited to and eager to get to learn who you are and your passions. And how would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Armando Silva. I'm an artist based out of Greeley, Colorado.
When did you realize that art and dance was your calling? And when did your career take off?
So there's a lot of there's a lot of layers as to how I can answer when just like self-expression was like a calling of mine. The first layer of it is my dad is a dancer and a singer, and we were part of a danza group in Mexico. And so as soon as I was able to dance or walk, I was dancing with him. So the age of 2 or 3. Not that I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing, but it was something that I was immediately gravitated towards. Um, so danza was there, the drum, the rattle, uh, dancing in groups, dancing almost as ritual was part of my upbringing. And then we moved to a bigger city and not early 90s, like hip hop's happening. So a lot of like dancing in the street with friends, almost kind of like school dance kind of vibes, like dancing in a circle. Again, very ritualistic, but also now in a social setting. Then the next layer of it is moving to the United States and learning a new culture and language. And at that point, what you're encountered with is how do you communicate? How do you participate? How do you do homework? How do you learn? Right? And so a lot of the way that I got to participate and be a part of community, social circles, make friends is through visuals. So I was drawing the map. I was, coloring the coloring book or leaning into those activities a lot more while I caught up in the language arts aspect of being a kid. So while I got caught up with my language and my communication skills, I was drawing a lot. I was drawing a cat, drawing a dog, doing the picture book. So I was kind of thriving in that space out of like necessity. And so a lot of it was just having to discover myself um, through that, which now as I'm growing up, I'm realizing that I would have maybe done that either way, but it kind of like cornered me into that space because I had a lack of communicating. I kept doing it and kind of pursued it as a way to like make side hustles while I was in middle school and high school. Drawing roses for girls, like bubble letters for like my friends. We'd have our folders and we'd put it like in those clear sleeves for science class or whatever it was. We used to like cover our like books that we would get for math or history, and I would draw on them and do all of that. So it was like a way to pass time. It was a way to kind of bring things or culture to me, being, as people might say, in the middle of nowhere or like Greeley, Colorado, the middle of America. We don't have like those big cultural, like, just like references, like like a wall with graffiti, or like a concert to go to, or like, a big artist is there. So it's a little bit far fetched, and so I would see things on TV like a Batman or Ninja Turtles, or like a new thing that came out that had a lot to do with fashion. And so using my skills and putting things together, I was able to like make my own version of it. And that went into like going into college, and then I decided to like make more use of it and pursue a career in that because I had already built up my skills in it.
Armando, in your childhood, what influenced your creativity?
Just cool, like just we just did a commercial about this with chips. Like it was really like pop culture, like what song was cool, like what cartoon show was in. It was like if I couldn't buy the action figure, like it was drawing Batman, or it was like everybody was drawing an 8 ball or the Stussy S. Spider webs in the corner. Lowriders were like a thing from like Chicano culture. So drawing all like the smile now, cry letters, like I think it was a matter of like wanting to grow up and have things or participate in things that you thought were cool. So it was just emulating a lot of that.
And what does your creative process look like?
Yeah, so I now as a father and as a business owner, I see things through the lens of like I have a career and I have to sustain this business that I have, right? This brand. And so a lot of my creative process is in onboarding clients or planning things out for my future in a way that's like, well, what can I create? What am I saying in a way that's going to continue to legit feed me and my family? So before I even like draw a figure or illustrate an image, there's almost kind of like lists, like making a lot of lists, getting to know people, getting to know clients, getting to know brands, discovering things, going on walks, phone calls, coffee, like beer chats, Zoom calls now. Since post pandemic, we do a lot of Zooming. And yeah, so a lot of discovery in that, and then make lists, and then try to figure out what's the ultimate goal, what's the story that we're trying to tell, whether I'm collaborating with somebody or I'm just making a painting on my own and like in my studio. So a lot of it is story driven, narrative driven, and then either creating characters or using real life characters to carry a narrative or tell a story.
What is the most difficult part in working your profession?
It's the most obvious, like it's like what people would want in my profession, but I think it is the most difficult, which is just you have to find alone time. You have to be like, I can't do things like I can't go do that, or I can't go to this concert, or I can't, always also always meet you for coffee. And like I have to go be in the lab in the studio and make the work. And so it's not that you don't want to do the work, but it's also it can be very isolating. It can be so you have to like find ways to like it's like going to the gym, right? Once you're at the gym or once you're at the thing doing the exercise or the practice, it seems like you get into like a mantra or a meditative sort of state, but it's that saying no to everything else, because you are your own boss and you are your own like you schedule yourself. So it's continuing to be disciplined to say no to a lot of things so that you can continue to make the work that's going to move you forward.
Armando, what has life taught you being an artist and a business owner?
Well, I think I'm one to say yes a lot and to leverage, to trust like my gut. And like if something feels like there's something there and I can pick up the pieces to turn it into something more, I've learned a lot that I can continue to do that. I always think of like over delivering and sometimes even being early. And that doesn't mean like showing up early. It just means like delivering the idea earlier than possible so that you can have time for feedback. I think feedback is super important so that you can make sure that everybody's on the same page and that you're like going in the same direction. And so the sooner you can get feedback, the sooner you can get like it's like Simba. The sooner you get to the watering hole, the sooner you get to leave. And so that's nice. Sometimes thinking about the idea and having it in your head whatever it is, whether it's a sketch or like a story. It's like the sooner you put it on paper and express it and get some feedback, whether it's even from yourself checking in on it the next day or your client, I think that's like the best move.
What is one thing that people don't know about you, but you wish people asked?
But this is funny. I've served on a few boards, and I serve on one now. And I had kind of this question come up, and the answer that I gave is that I feel like like I'm a kind of an introvert, but by nature of my work, need it requires me to be front and center if I want it to truly have story behind it. Um, I consider myself a huge part of the story of the things that I'm making, and so I really have to put it on. Like even just this interview, it's like it's easier for me now to like just grab the pieces and like show them and talk about them because I've done it now so many times. But there's really like I really feel like just want to sit down and watch a movie by myself sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious and interested in things, and so it's hard for me to also fight that and be like, yeah, don't linger anymore at the art opening. Like, if somebody comes and asks you about something, like, don't be an asshole. Like, be a nice person and like do those things. But that does take work and that does take energy to get better at that and to lean into that. So it's not just people be like, oh, you're just so good, or you're just like, well, yeah, but it's almost like dribbling a basketball. Like I've been working at it for a long time, but it does take a lot out of you.
Armando, when is it a good time or a bad time to show up to things? Is it like intuition or do you have any advice?
No, because I think I also like lead with gratitude. Like if I get invited, I think a lot of us are, as artists, we're waiting to be asked, right? Like you're waiting to be asked to be a part of a show. You're waiting to be asked to like be in this play. You're waiting to be invited to come see the show. And so I do my best that when I do get the invite or the ask, to make the effort of at least like even asking about it. Like tell me more. Like and then figuring out and then understanding like, oh, I would actually really like to go to that, but it's really just I have these other two things, and then communicating to the person that's inviting that's like, it's just not going to work out for me for this reason, instead of just like not showing up or just doing like a hard no. I think understanding communication clarity on why the move happened is good for the relationship or whatever it is moving forward, because you maybe want to be invited again to the other one. You're like, why didn't you invite me? And be like, well, you would never, whatever. Like, yeah, but that thing, remember we talked?
Armando, what qualities do you admire about yourself that contribute to the growth of your career?
I think I like to be in harmony. So with myself, but also with others. And that doesn't mean I've learned about this about myself, that I'm a pretty good collaborator, and kind of like jazz, I can freestyle or improvise pretty well as things are unfolding and becoming. Um, but that could also be like a weakness, because it means like the sandcastle could kind of fall apart because we just kind of patched it together with, I don't know, super glue or something, instead of like really planning it out. Yeah, so I've been able to step into that space and notice that that is like a superpower. But I'm also trying to like understand how to put it on reserve so that it's not always that it's not always leading with that, so that we can still have structure and expectations and deadlines, all of those things, so that everybody can kind of, whether it's somebody expecting a painting that I'm going to deliver or my family expecting me home at a certain time, I think all those things are important. So structure is important, but also being able to improvise when something goes wrong is super key in the way that I've been able to show up.
Speaking furthermore on projects, what recent projects have you been working on?
Not anything new, which feels nice. Sometimes the question is like, what's new? What's exciting? Where are you going? And I'll be guilty of asking some of those questions too. And there's a lot of pressure with that sort of like expectation or conversation or questioning where it feels like I need to like, give. And so I would tend to work in kind of seasons, or it sounds better for me in temporadas because it feels temporary in the word in Spanish. And so I'm kind of coming out of a season right now, which is a lot of outdoor public, like out being outside kind of thing. And so I'm really looking forward to, from what is new, but it's also old, is to just almost like the fall, the winter, is to like lock in, hibernate, slow down, build up routine and rhythm to my life. And that allows me to almost like the butterfly effect, right? To go into my cocoon and hopefully come out new again.
Can you share more about the experience of the mural festival that you put together?
The metaphor is that it's like inviting a lot of like friends or family that you've known for a while, and it's you finally invited them over to your house for dinner. So a lot of the artists that participated, I knew of them or have had worked not with them, but maybe alongside with them in previous projects. And it's been like the project itself, the festival, we started putting it together close to a year ago. But in my mind, or in my hopes and dreams, this has been like in the making for like the past 12 to 15 years. As far as like being like, I wish we had something like that here in town. And so it was a big breath that we finally got to exhale and have that. So it was hospitality. It was not community, but hopefully it felt communal. Hopefully it felt like a cultural exchange. And also like a hang, for both the creatives that were creating, but also the creatives that were an audience, and just the audience in general and the community here. Hopefully a lot of like pride, like geographically, like where we're at on the map, to show up to something and support it, applaud it, consume it. Yeah, that's, I guess, there's like no really like a structure of how I want to respond to that. Just those are some of the things that come to mind.
Armando, what is the heart of what you do and what keeps you going?
Really, so I have like I don't know what to call it, but it's like what would you call it? Like, it's not my mission statement, but it's this phrase that I just put together. It's para mi familia. And a lot of that stems out of like almost Day of the Dead folklore, right? But I've kind of applied it to just like my everyday. It's like, oh, I go on a run like for my family. And that could be like for my family that I'm making, but it could also be so that I can stay young and, help my parents as they age, right? Or I'm going to take a break for my family, or I'm going to work really hard in this project for my family. And what it really is like, it's in honor of those that have sacrificed for you to have the platform, whatever it is now. And also in a way that leaves seeds for the generations that are going to come after you. So I made that for myself, and I'm hopefully like it's specific enough for me that it applies to everybody else too. But that's really like my lifeline. That's like the heartbeat of things. And it can get very personal, intimate as to every little thing that I do in one day, or it can have like this macro vision as to how I show up to things.
In the midst of chaos, what grounds you?
When you say chaos, like in the midst of chaos, I think when I do like live paintings and like I have to get a 4-foot painting done in like an hour, and that can feel like fucking hurry up, right? Like get it done. And so in that chaos, it's like letting go, like getting on the ride. I'm not much of like getting on roller coasters or nothing like that, but I see that when people are in something like that or skydiving, that it's just better for you to just like focus on your breathing, smile, and try to enjoy it as much as possible, because it'll probably be over before you know it.
Armando, how do you tell your story through canvas?
It can be like super corny. Like the corniest answer is like I'll just do like a self-portrait, and that can lean into the space of like our stories aren't being told enough, like there's some of that. It could be that, well, I don't know anybody, kind of like Farida, like I don't know anybody more than I know myself. And so just by portraying like a gesture that I might have that I feel familiar, and if I can convey that and paint that on a canvas, maybe somebody else be like, oh, I feel what that expression is. Um, so there's that practice, but there's also the practice where I'll paint people that are familiar to me. And by familiar, it could be I use my family a lot in pieces. I'm actually photographing my nephew for a mural that's going up next month, in like referencing it. So yeah, I think just using myself as a character, or using my family as part of the characters that help tell the story, and try not to go much further than that, because then I feel like I'm bullshitting or like making it up.
Is there a painting that you hold close to your heart?
So the funny thing about like art making or painting things is that I've never really held anything like, oh, don't, like, you're gonna bend it, or like, or it's got to stay in this frame, or hang it up here, because I always feel like I could just make it again. But I think with like where I'm at now with age, I'm starting to realize like, oh, like I'm hitting like a sweet spot where I've learned a lot technically, and I've also learned a lot about what these things might mean in the future. So there's a painting I made of my dad. I'm actually not even finished with it. I've just been working on it on and off for like the last 2 years. And so that's a nice piece that I keep for me, and it's like I've just kind of worked on it. And it's almost again ritualistic. It's like a reminder. It's a you don't it's of my dad, but you can't even see him because he has like a mask on, and so nobody else would know. But it's also been kind of the most interesting piece, because people, when people come into my studio, they'll be like, well, what's this?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on over here? I'm like, don't touch it. No. No, but it's interesting how it has some of that energy there.
How has your culture influenced your vision?
Well, sometimes like when I think of culture, when I think of like, I see it almost like as a vessel, right? So it could be a home. It could be like the ingredients that were in that place, like what was hanging on the wall, what did it smell like, and then how did you navigate your day to day. And so a lot of that was rice and beans, like that tasted amazing, like that I would almost eat that before I ate like the meat protein. So I think of things like that. I think of like really thick mud brick houses in Mexico that were painted bright colors that had metal gates. I think about like my dad's house being on a hill, and us playing soccer like uphill, and so having to chase the ball down and falling down on cement and scraping yourself. I think about also having access to family that had high aspirations of becoming somebody, and doctors, architects, entrepreneurs. And I also think about other cousins and family being like maybe not having those aspirations, but the way that they enjoyed life and laughed at things and allowed me to be in the moment and riff and just like go with things like that and enjoy those moments, like allowed me to be very present and be a kid. And that's all like painted on the wall of like also coming back to the United States and like watching cartoons like Doug and Rugrats and being more like inside and being like almost programmed in a way. So there was a lot there that like was just juxtaposed. And so I was always kind of pulling from one side to be able to unpack and learn what the other side was offering.
All right, Armando, we're going to go into audience questions. So the first audience question is, what inspires you the most, and where do you find inspiration?
I don't like the idea of like being inspired, because sometimes I'll compare it to like going to the gym. Like sometimes you just gotta go and like get the reps in, right? Like But if like would really want to get like in that inspiration thing, like I always tell people to not look too far, like find it even like close to you, and let it be like almost kind of mundane and like every day. So for me, it's like my grandma's still working and she's 80. So if she can get up and work and find purpose and what she does in that, how could I not find purpose in painting a canvas or something, you know? So it's like little things like that. And obviously, like my family, my son, and like waking up every day and having good health, like all those things are inspiring. But you almost have to let yourself like be the muse and be like the engine, right? Um, Eating a good taco is inspiring, right? Being able to enjoy that and like have all your senses. So health, like well-being, positive attitude, all those things are really good.
The second question is, what has been the most difficult step in becoming a creative?
That it's like difficult step. The It's not that it's difficult, but it's like you're not that I'm not. I don't like I don't see myself as a creative. I see myself like as a painter. Like I paint things, and that's not always necessarily very creative. Like it's not like how I talked about magic. Like it's not always magic. It's just like you got to put more blue on it again because it didn't look right. So a lot of it is just like inventory. It's just checking. It's just like comparing and figuring it out. And so a lot of it has just really been the idea of like taking away the magic to do the work to have the vision come to life so that you can then be like, oh, it came out all right.
The third question is, what is your favorite or least favorite part of the process?
I like sketching. Like, so if we're just talking about making an idea from zero to finished, I like the idea of like drafting, sketching, um, just quick, like the pencil lines and like changing the tip of the pencil from sharp to like fat and like that control of things is pretty fun. Um, my least favorite is almost like choosing color, and like deciding like okay that's it, like no more tweaking it. And it's not that it's my least favorite, but I can be in that forever, right? Mm-hmm. And depending on what it's for, like what time of the day are you looking at the mural? Is it in the evening? Or it might look better this way, or is it out in the open? It might look better that way. Is it snowing? And so I can like be in those scenarios lost in the sauce forever when it's like public art. um but my favorite is just like dreaming up the idea, the gesture, the position, like real quick, and then falling in love with it at that point. Mm-hmm. And then the least favorite is like, yeah, almost kind of like that. It's like the frosting on the cake part. They're like, you could have made a really good cake, but like if you don't get the frosting right, you could like got the cake.
And the fourth question is, last question, what new things are you trying?
What new things? Mm-hmm. I'm getting into sculpture. Like and design, and so that's really scary because I didn't go to school for I mean I did sculpture classes and design classes, but it's not like my strong suit. But I'm challenging myself. So working with engineers, from like safety and structural like integrity of objects, whether that's a kid that's going to climb on something, to it also looking aesthetically beautiful and also holding up over time. So like park sculptures, like playgrounds, thinking about design like as a product, like that's on a shelf, that's marketable, that has a story. So all of those things that still tie back to like storytelling and almost that have that painterly kind of touch and feel. So I'm trying some of those new things. Yeah. Yeah, like 3D. And also it's a lot of like hands off, or as opposed to where I can go paint a wall by myself, whether it's on a ladder, on a lift, or a canvas. These things that are being built are like, you know, measured, designed, blueprinted, like talked about, dreamt about, fabricated. They show up, and then maybe now I have to go again put the frosting on that cake. But if like again the cake isn't good and safe and sound, then the frosting's not gonna do anything to make sure to like hold it up.
All right, just to wrap this video up, Armando, do you have anything admirable to say to the audience?
Impactful message. Well, it depends. I would say everything is understood in comparison. Like, like in kind of the social media world we live in, like with better context, you'll have the best content in a way. So you'll understand your life, or you'll understand who you are and what you have to offer, the more you can contextualize who you are, where you come from, and what you have to offer. Whether that's legit, like your parents, your family, your household, your economic status, is the more you can kind of ask about who you are and where you come from, I think a better understanding you'll have of where you might go or what you can do about that. And then you'll understand everything in comparison, which means that like this person might have that and I don't have this. And so that doesn't mean that you're handicapped or that you can't do things, but it just means that you can do other things, and you could waste your time in dwelling of the things that you don't have, whether that's hair, height, or a language skill, I don't know, a degree. And so, but you can kind of take inventory of the things that you do have, leverage that, and move forward. Yo. Sorry, I need to get my goofiness out of the way.
Yeah. No,
I'm ready.
let it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dang, everybody knows everything. Everybody hates Chris. I don't know. Have I not learned anything?
Camera's right over here.